Americans from Africa? This question continues to generate a lot of debate. Rather than me tell you what I think, I wanted to bring together several perspectives, researchers, and scholars who have examined this question from different angles. So let's listen to what they have to say, and then you make the decision of what you think. Let's get into it.
I know Africa.
Well, I'm Andinka. We're proud people.
And I'm American. I was born here. My mammy and my daddy was born here. And my daddy's daddy. And I know African.
We are the original people of this land. We have been reclassified, but we was already living here when the Spanish, when the French, when the British came here. We've been here for thousands and thousands of years, not only in America, but in Canada, in Mexico, Central America, the Caribbeans. These people took over our lands, not only in America, but Papua New Guinea, Africa, Australia, the Pacific Islands, are the original home of people that look like us.
You're not even American. You're not even a Black American. As the daughter of an immigrant, it is imperative that Black people from other places understand the disparate difference that they exist from Black people in the United States. It is not the same. Period. And ultimately, the best effort that we can do as a diaspora is to lead in understanding, not in judgment. So when I am talking to somebody from Sudan, from the Congo, from Angola, I am listening to understand their experience, not to undermine it. And I refuse to allow anybody from Grenada, from Angola, from any other place to come and try to undermine the experience of Black Americans.
You have something called African Ancestry, and guess what you got too? Indigenous Native Ancestry. Why is there two different blood tests? So I even think it's something going on with that, on what they're doing with these DNA tests that's automatically bringing us back to Africa. There was a test done where this dude, it was a white man. He said that he had a suspicion about them lying with the DNA test, and he sent the saliva of his lizard to Ancestry.com. Did you know his lizard came back 34% Nigerian? I'm just saying. So man, all this propaganda, man. And look, I don't care if they mad at me or not. All I'm saying is research what I'm saying. I know it sounds taboo, but what happened if the biggest conspiracy in the history of lies happened? And that is that we are indigenous from America. We come from America. We don't come from Africa. But in order for them to take the precious treasures of America, which we have oil, we have gold, we have copper, we have all of that here. They act like all this is in Africa. All this is here too. What happened if it was to drive us out, connect us back to Africa, for we want to go back home, and while we going back to so-called home, we're leaving our home and they taking over our land? I'm just saying, when you really think about it, then look, what happened if the maps is flipped? Because from my understanding of my studies, Lebanon, Illinois, was called Lebanon before there was a Lebanon over there. What about Israel? Here. What about Judah? What you'll call Utah? This is here. You start getting into these old names. There's a city out here called Morocco. These are different cities. And what about Memphis? Where's Memphis at? Memphis, Tennessee, that has one of the oldest pyramids here. It's a pyramid in Memphis right now. They done put glass over. That's a real pyramid. But then you have a Memphis over there in where? Egypt. What about Cairo? Cairo, Illinois. That's here in the Americas. So we have these different cities and these different states named after stuff that's in Africa. But when you do deep research and study, these was named that here before it was named that there. I'm saying we got to talk about. Then you got stuff like Milwaukee. That's an Indian tribe name. You know what I'm saying? Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's an Indian name. So you start going, and then you got different sections in, because Missouri and Illinois is one of your most oldest places in the world. Where I'm from, one of your most oldest places. You got Chickasaw Street. You got Cherokee Street. And then you start seeing there's different museums around there that got all of our stuff in it. They got other people's faces on it. They have did this to the whole world, where they go around where ancient ancestral black people come from. They will change the faces to them, and then they'll take our history. So my belief, my research, my study shows that we are in the oldest parts of the world, which is ancient America. We are not from Africa. I do believe that all people of melanin descent do have some type of ancestral and DNA connection, but we are not all the same people, and we don't all keep or hold the same traditions. And I believe a lot of islanders, like such as yourself, actually come from the lower Americas, and it actually was a ship's trade there, where a lot of y'all went from the South America to the islands, but it didn't happen the other way, where we all came by millions on this big ass boat, stacked on each other like sardines, came over from Africa, from a port called Yehuda, all the way over into the Americas. And I haven't found any evidence that truly suggests that. Now, can you tamper with evidence and make things look like something? Yes, that's why we all think we're from Africa when we not.
In order to write that in a scholastic and academic book, the biblical scholars have done extensive and thorough research on both the so-called Negroes and the Africans, the native Africans. And they came to the conclusion after the extensive research that the Negroes don't have anything to do with the native Africans at all. They're two totally separate people. In the 1840s, Morton collaborated with George R. Glyden, an Egyptologist, who provided him with mummy heads and information about the racial significance of Egyptian tomb inscriptions. In Crania Aegyptiaca, published in 1844, Morton pointed out that both cranial and archaeological evidence showed that the Egyptians were not Negroes. In 1840, Dr. Morton was trying to find out the racial origin of the so-called Negroes that were in America in slavery. So he got together with the Egyptologists, which supplied him with the mummy heads. And what he did was conduct an extensive research on the cranial remains of the heads in Egypt, in contrast to the cranial remains of the heads in America. And what he found out is that the Negroes that were in slavery were not Africans. He found out that the skulls were two totally different types of skulls. The Negro's head was longer than the Egyptian head. The physical characteristics from the outside look similar, with the thick lips and the broad nose. But once you start delving into the real characteristics, he found out that there were two totally different people, as abolitionists and colonizationists had maintained, and that in fact, blacks had been relegated to the same servile position in ancient Egypt as in modern America. But what Dr. Morton did discover is that the Negroes that were serving slavery in America served the same position and servitude in ancient Egypt when they matched other skulls and other cranial remains in Egypt. They said these are exact matches.
Very, very few black slaves were brought over from Africa to America. The black people, the Washita people, for example, down there in the Louisiana area, they were there since time immemorial. The Moroccan or black African Americans, they are the originals, along with the other indigenous Indian bloodlines, okay? So these people had known all along that the indigenous people were God-fearing people and good people, but they created, as we will see, papal bulls to diminish their status to the status of animal so that they could murder them, okay?
New York was already there for thousands of years. San Francisco was there for thousands of years. Los Angeles was there for thousands of years. They were built by the indigenous people who were black and Indians as well. Whoa. The black people, they weren't brought over by slaves. They are the original owners of America. Black people, African Americans. They don't come from Africa. They were already here, and they plagued them out. And they stole the Smithsonian Institute, which is Jesuit-controlled, stole their knowledge, stole their history, and now we're just left wondering who we are, where we come from, where we're going. We don't know anything.
Wow.
Because they did a catastrophe on this earth just only a few hundred years ago. The Europeans didn't come here to Mexico to build buildings. They came here to steal the buildings and the gold. They were already here. Everything in Mexico, everything in Guadalajara, everything in Cancun was already there for thousands of years, and the Europeans just came over and did a corporate takeover with plagues and catastrophes, and then they just put their flags here and said, well, it's ours now.
But this, to me, finding this here was just like, why would they put it in the most prominent hotel at the top of San Francisco? And if you keep going down, I don't know if you saved it or not, but I show the Mark Hopkins Hotel, but you know, here's the black women. I mean, here's the women that were running the country and ruling over. And you see in the background all the birds and fecundity that were flying in harmony and peace. So this is something that's just, you know, why do they have this in the hotel? Why are they making it so significant? These paintings were commissioned back in the 1920s by a very famous artist. I forget his name. You know, and Juniper Serra comes in and they got that big statue on 101, you see, with them pointing across to the lands. So that was all part of the conquest, because they were the Catholics were sponsored by Queen Isabella to come to conquer the lands. And when they found all the gold and they found all the natives and they found all the fecundity, they just raped it, you know, and they just conquered it, and then they papered over the history of all these people, but they kept it in memory in these paintings.
All right, racists, we're going to address this again, since the inferior people are struggling. Black Americans are the only indigenous people on this land. Melanated people are the only people around the world who are indigenous on every land, no matter their ethnic group. Uncivilized lands all have the same genetic connection, melanated skin with varying shades of brown. And those groups are not connected to Africa, just like Black Americans aren't connected to Africans ethnically. The actual American Indian, known as the Black Americans, are the ethnic group of North America, not descendants of Africans. Let's dismantle the greatest public relations fraud ever committed, the desperate multiracial campaign to erase the true indigenous Black American from this land. There is a coordinated effort, a relentless lie, designed to make Black Americans believe they are a guest in someone else's house. But the unchangeable archaeological and historical truth is that Black Americans are the foundation. They were here first. And by here, I mean the world, every country, every strip of land. And they built the civilization that we are all destroying. The lie about Africa is to confuse and mislead so that the theft can keep going on. Black Americans weren't even considered African American until 1988 by Jesse Jackson, a known Cherokee Indian. So they'll pay a Black American leader to lie and sell out, while classifying himself correctly despite the lie. If Black Americans came from Africa by boat in the 1600s, America didn't figure this out until 1988? And this isn't just a white lie. This is a lie woven by $5 pretendians, by secret treaties between immigrant groups, by decades of policy and propaganda, all aimed at one single goal: convincing the world that the original people of the soil simply do not exist. They have every story in the world about the false history. And then you ask for ship manifest and evidence of ships, and then suddenly they can't produce them. But they could show you evidence of the Titanic hundreds of feet under the ocean. They won't even show you the entirety of the Titanic under the water. Only a corner of this ship. They still parse that history. They have reclassified the true indigenous people, renamed you, and redrawn maps around you, hoping you would forget the land your spirit is made from. Now they deploy their little native influencers online, armed with fraudulent petitions and digital picket signs, begging platforms to remove you from your own story. They are performing a pathetic pantomime of indigeneity. If you are indigenous, why would you need outside help? What are they protecting? If you're truly indigenous Native Americans, how could someone take that from you? Why the sudden panic? Every post they make, every petition they circulate is an admission. You've been caught, and now history will be made. Every other race are the visitors. It is time, Black Americans. Time for you to start acting like the host in your home, because all of this is yours. It is time you start acting like the host.
Find out you learn how to read, we all get whooped. Or worse.
First you gotta learn, ain't you?
If the epsilon.
No, child, that's elephant. Elephant.
Elephant.
Right.
What's elephant?
Well, see, an elephant is a great big old animal with a long nose. He live in Africa. That's where my mammy and pappy came from, and all your family.
My mammy Cherokee. I ain't never been to Africa.
I was helping my daughter study last night. for the Virginia Standards of Learning exam, so I recognize that's above your concern, your level of authority, but I didn't know who to raise my concern to, because usually I cook and my husband assists my children with their homework, but I was feeling a little under the weather, so we reversed roles last night, and I saw that what they were teaching my child was that the status of early Africans was unknown, and that they were probably slaves or servants. As a HBCU graduate who knows better, although I lived in Prince William County, I attended Thomas Jefferson High School, so I was not a product of Prince William County schools, but it's one thing to say we're not going to cover that. It's another thing to lie to my child and say that their history is unknown and that they were probably servants or slaves before they came to America. And I feel like part of this miseducation is a reason for our current country's climate. And the fact that if my child gives an answer other than what's on that paper, that she's considered wrong. So how do I educate my child and teach her that her history is powerful, that her history is amazing, and what her classmates are learning are what they carry with them when they become senior leaders, executives, and feel that it's beneath them to promote someone above them because their ancestors were just slaves, were servants. Right now, I'm working in the CIA as the chief of a group within the Diversity and Inclusion Office, and I'm fighting these battles every day to change minds, to change hearts, to change unconscious bias, because they're not unconscious, they're taught at this age to our children and their classmates. And I don't know what can be done about that, but I figured I'd start with you all. Because I have 3 babies, 9, 10, and 11, in Prince William County schools who are being shaped for their future.
So, after hearing these different perspectives, the question remains: are Black Americans simply Africans living in America, or have we developed a distinct identity and history of our own? I'm not giving you this video to tell you what conclusions to reach. I'm asking you to research, think critically, and decide for yourself. And it's very critical that we teach our children. That's why the last clip was of a parent who discovered the information that was given to her children by the school systems. It's not enough that we just send our children to school. We are actually educating the next generation that will continue our history, that will tell our story. So it's important that we make sure that we do our due diligence, do the research, and also give that knowledge to the upcoming generations. Please let me know what you think, comment below, and may the Most High bless.